has now been around for 3 seasons, and coaches everywhere are saving time and being more efficient when it comes to scout cards. Coach Robinson from Texas says, "The thing I most enjoy is the ease of access to all the scout cards and how I can draw on them if I need to make any changes. Every coach that uses it says that it is so great to use. If you and your staff are tired of the old ways of preparing and using scout cards, check out thecoachpad.com to start enjoying Scout Team and making the 2023 season better than ever."
Welcome back to another episode of the Gab Down Backer podcast. I have a friend of mine who's also the assistant coach currently at Bishop Rosecrans, and he's also one of our region directors for ohsfca, Coach Chad Jackson. Coach, how you doing?
Doing fine. How are you today, Coach?
I'm doing good, doing good. Like, it's great to have you on. I mean, we just spent 20 minutes just BSing on a variety of things, so as we always do. But how do you? I mean, you're obviously helping grand staff there at Rosecrans right now in that role, and kind of doing some consulting with Zanesville as well. How do you kind of end up where you're at right now?
That's a good story. So I went to college, played football. Come out of college, couldn't find a job. Went to the Army actually. Came back from the Army and decided, man, Chad was coaching. I loved the sport. Coach Whit Parks, who let me coach with him before I went to the military, come back, and he wasn't in Zanesville anymore, but caught on. Actually, was going to coach at Maysville, and another friend of mine got the job at Zanesville. Chad was still up in northwest part of Ohio with Coach Parks, and I've been going up there watching them, and I just got the bug to coach. And I started at Zanesville in 07, back at Zanesville, I should say, because I coached there earlier when Coach Parks was there back in the late 90s. Just loved it ever since. Between that and teaching history, I just started coaching. Chad eventually came back, and we started together. I mean, I've known Coach Grandstaff for a long time. We grew up basically a block from each other's houses. So, and Coach Parks, just watching him and the passion he put into it, put into me to coach football and coach O-line. That's my passion. I mean, I coach outside linebackers also, and I love that. But coaching O-line is my true passion. Those are my guys.
Good. No, seriously, and that's, I mean, we'll kind of probably hit on both of those O-line and outside backers today. But yeah, I mean, like I said, and I said this when I talked to grand staff, is just you guys have did a pretty good job at rebuilding Zanesville, because he talked about it a little bit. It kind of went down a little bit for a little brief time, and then obviously he came back, put together a really good staff. You guys had some really good athletes, especially what was those 13 and 14 years.
13 was we had some of the 13 and 15, 2 Final Four appearances, you know what I mean? Just like you say, football is a game of inches from being in the state championship, which I think in 13, we'd have got there, we'd have won.
Yeah.
The team would beat us, won it. And I think we'd have won. We had a state title, but that's why I say game of inches.
Who did you lose to again in 13?
Loveland.
That's right. Okay. But I mean, we've talked a lot, or especially over the past year, with me being a regional rep this year, and we sit either next to each other or 2 seats down from each other a lot of time. I mean, the playoffs are a great testing ground for coaches. Like you see a certain thing in your league every year, like your schedule, and grand staff talked a little bit about that as well. But like you've mentioned all the time, just the lessons you guys learned in the playoffs, lessons you learned in the playoffs. What kind of lessons do you think you actually took away from those playoff experiences? Because, like, I mean, you guys have built your offense and defenses kind of more and more every year off kind of those things that you've learned.
Well, the thing is, first thing you learn being a young coach that I was, is I thought I'll go into the playoffs. I know it's hard because when I played, it only took 4 teams. Then it took 8. Well, now we're 16, so it's a little easier. It's still hard to get there. And I wondered, you have these great coaches out there, and they get there and they're one and done, 2 and done. It takes time. You have to get there and experience it and see what your flaws, because you got there. That means you're a good coach or you got a good team, but you always have flaws. You got to be able to self-mirror or self-examine yourself and your program. What you're doing something great because you're there. So don't beat yourself up. But when you get beat, somebody's doing something a little better. So what do you have to do to figure out, and like one of the couple big lessons, and I don't know, Coach Hill, is not our first year we got to the playoffs like in 2007. We just wanted to get there. Just wanted to get to the playoffs, get the kids to understand we got to get there. I mean, we got hammered by the sales, I think. But it's like, okay, we got there. All right. Now we want to get a home playoff game. Well, we did that in 12, but because we cut ourselves short, we lost that home playoff game. Because the kids were like, we got there, coach. We got the home playoff game. That's it. No, so you got to set your goals to win it. Win your conference, win the state title. You got to go after those big goals. Now, you pick up goals to go along with it, but you don't cut yourself short, because in that game, you might cut yourself short. And the other big thing we learned in 2012, honestly, and all the years leading up to 2013, our first Final Four run, was you got to have an answer. Somebody's going to know what you like to do, and you got to have an answer when they shut that down. We didn't have an answer. We like to roll our quarterback out. They brought guys off the edge. And offensive line coach, I didn't have an answer. And coach looked at me and said, "You're Jackson, you're going to have an answer. We're going to have an answer from now on." And we do. That's the biggest thing I can say now is if we get in situations, we have answers. I have an answer. I know what I can do with my kids. I mean, I teach some stuff when I get offensive linemen that's second level to let them understand that if this happens, it's what we're going to do. If this happens, what we're going to do. I might not work it every day, but I put it in their mind. So if it ever happens, they kind of have a clue how we're going to do something. And if you don't do that, you're cutting yourself and your kids short. But again, if you're never put in that situation, you can't learn from it.
Yeah. No, exactly. You're 100% right there. And you don't know what you don't know until it happens.
Don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't get to see that some years because you just have so much talent that nobody has an answer for it. Like, I mean, it kind of talks, we were talking about your son walking on Ohio State earlier, and like, I'm going to say this nicely, when they play like a MAC or one of these lower level schools, I mean, they can have an answer, but is it really going to be an answer just because of the talent disparity? Like, it is what it is. I mean, but okay, we can bounce the O-line next. Like, O-line, like, because I talked to Chad, like, you had several schemes, and then kind of you guys get simplifying, especially as you started throwing the ball more. And again, that 12, 13, 14 years, like, you guys transitioned from that eye to a full spread offense.
Yeah, because Chad was an eye guy, and I like the eye also because it's a running, I like gap scheme. And he was like, well, we got these guys coming. We're gonna run the spread. We gotta learn to run zone. I'm like, Chad, I don't know about this zone. I'm like the research. I said, but the big thing that scares me, Chad, is zone. Everything you step laterally and gain ground and block. And I said, last time I checked, Chad, we don't get to pick our players. They're not 6'6", 320 coming to the door. I said, our little linemen sometimes they try to step lateral and get blown up, get blown backwards. You'll be yelling at me. So luckily, I had a friend at the time at Michigan, Coach Daryl Funk, who's now at BYU, offensive line coach. Shout out to him. He was coaching at Michigan, and Coach Parks knew him and introduced me, let me come up there, and he talked about getting vertical. He gave me a bunch of drills. They never step sideways. They get vertical and up the field, everything's up the field. They did 1 million drills up the field, stepping 45, up the field, gaining ground, never losing ground. So it was like he married a gap scheme to the zone. And I adopted that. And that helped us out a lot because I don't step laterally. We step vertically, 45 degrees at minimum, and we're getting up the field, we're gaining ground. And it's zone, but it looks like more of a gap scheme. And then I can marry the gap scheme stuff like do, like your power, quarterback powers, and things you want to do in the spread. You can marry that to it because it's really not two different schemes because you're not stepping sideways, teaching all that waddle stuff and everything. And I'm not saying nothing's wrong with that. If you can go out and recruit your players and get 6'6", 320 across the board, like I did in 15, I had that across the board basically. Yeah, you can do that. You just swallow people up. I mean, great players make great coaches. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
But when you don't have that, what I learned from Coach Funk up at Michigan, unfortunately at the team up north, you can do this, and we've done it, and it worked out tremendously for me. I mean, but zone's a type of play you can't just stick your toe in the water with it. You got to marry it. I mean, that year in 2012, when we first brought the zone out, we didn't have another run play besides zone left and zone right, inside zone. That was not even outside zone, inside zone until week 6 of the season because you got to ref that so many times, get the kids used to doing it, that that's all you can run. That's it. That's all we did. And later on we added more. But the biggest thing I've learned over the years, me and Chad together, and I'm always going to take is keep it simple. What you can do and what your kids can do are two different things. If they can't do it, there's no reason to have it. Even though it's great scheme, great play. If the kids can't do it, scrap it. I mean, we may have, every year we put our offense in, we may have 10, 12, 14 run plays. By the time the season gets there, we're running 4 or 5 of them. That's it. We're going to try them all out. I'm going to look at them. Chad's going to look at them. What can we do? Well, I like this play, Chad. I want to have that. Yeah, we'd have that play. That. And then the rest of it, we just scrap because you can't get enough reps at it. Mm-hmm. You got to have our kids that we've always coached, got to have reps. You can't run a run play twice in a game to think you're going to get something out.
Yeah.
That's asinine to me. Other thing that drives me crazy is when a coach calls a run play, gets 10 to 15 yards, you never see it again to the fourth quarter. If it ain't broke, I ain't fixing it for you. You're going to have to fix it yourself. I'm going to run that play until you stop it.
So old Jim Tressel quote, like his first three or four plays, he called as an offense coordinator were power, and it's just a different formation or a different thing. And his head coach asked him to go run a different play. Like, why? It's getting 8 yards to carry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm that way. And sometimes I think people outthink themselves. Like, look, man, if this play's working, you're going to see that play a whole lot. And I know as being an offensive lineman, okay, you can't run a play 3 times and have it down because you're trying to figure out that defensive lineman, what he likes to do and what you can do to him to make the play work. Oh, coach, I missed him that time. I'm going to get him next time. Well, if we'll never call it again, you ain't got next time to go back to. And now you called something else and you're trying to figure out how to block that guy on this play now. So you got to run something 8, 9, 10, 11 times. Because the thing is, it may be the 7th time when it pops. First 6 times it was okay. The 7th time the lineman, right? Yeah, we know what they're going to do. We know what they're going to do. Here we go, boom, and there you go for a 10-yard gain or a touchdown. But if you don't call that run play over and over again, you're never going to get to it. And guys that have 10, 15 run plays going into a game, they must have awful smart kids, really, really smart, or all really, really good. Because like I said, we might have 15 run plays. By the time the game comes around, we got 5, and sometimes 2.
Yeah,
and that's okay. A lot of times our meetings was offensive meeting was, well, this is what we do. If they stop it, we're just going to have to get beat, I guess, because this is what we do. If you don't stop it, we're going to win.
Yeah. Now, and to your point, zone is I've tried messing with it in the past, and it is one you have to do a lot of off-season study. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like you're going down the weeds because there's 18 billion different things that can occur and how you react it. And so how do you go about the process of working with your offensive line in inside zone? Like, what is your typical process?
The thing with zone is it really brings together that those 5 guys got to become one. Everybody knows you're an offensive line coach. You got 5 guys, but you got to become one. Zone makes you become one because you got to work like a chain. You ain't going to be as good as your weakest link. Okay. So the first thing I do is I got to make it simple to where if I yell something, they know what I'm talking about. So I came up and Chad came up with the clock. Okay. We call it the clock. And what that is we all know what the clock looks like. So I can yell out there, take a 12 o'clock step. That's straightforward. That means I need you to get that way, get vertical. I need you to get vertical. You're not taking a 12 o'clock step. You're taking a 3 o'clock step. No, I need a 12 o'clock step. Get up the field, or I might say, hey, take a 2 o'clock step on that to gain some ground, but get outside that guy because we're trying to get him turned or something. So I taught them the clock to know how to step. So I can verbally tell them when I see them not doing things right, hey, the clock, where'd you step at? Oh, coach, man, I stepped at 4, I stepped at 3 o'clock. Nope, gotta be a 2 or a 1. Come on now. So you teach them the clock. Lines on the field are important. Thank God for turf. Okay. You got to work on your steps and gaining ground. So I'd be behind a yard marker and tell, okay, take your step. You got to gain ground. So we would sit there and just bird dog steps, 100, 200 a day to get them used to taking that step. Because you got to break zone down into the smallest parts. You just can't start running zone. You got to break it down so the kids understand, okay, it's a progression. I got my step. I got my clock. I got my step. Now, what am I looking at? Okay. Now it starts breaking into, you got to teach them how to read a defense a little bit and not as much as colleges, but they got to understand what they're up against. And I used to teach them The first thing, if I say a 3-4, what does that mean? That means 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, coach. All right. So linebackers go from the tackle box straight back. Not inside that, we don't count. A lot of teams do. I can see in college now, dealing with my own son is in college, listen to him talk about things. I can see why you count guys outside the box. But in high school football, we don't have that much time. We can't go that far into it. So you count what's in the box and get them to understand that, okay, it's a 4-2, 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5-1, 5 down linemen, 1 linebacker. Because you got to know who has to get to that linebacker. Who's responsible when we run inside zone, get to that linebacker.
Yeah.
So your combo block becomes the next best important thing. But it's the biggest thing with combo blocks is what I've learned is if you don't block the down man, it don't matter if you block the linebacker or not. Because you can block the down man and get 3 yards. And thing is, people understand, zone's only meant to get 3 or 4 yards. That's all. That's what it's meant for. It's not meant to go to distance. It ain't meant to get 10 yards. That's great. That's great. But it's meant to move the chains for you. It's a run play out of your spread formation to get you 3 or 4 yards. So it's 2nd and 6. Or when it's 2nd and 4, now it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1, or you got a first down because you ran zone and got 4 yards. Okay. But the biggest thing I teach my kids and teach kids overall is you got to block the down man first. Even though you're comboing or double teaming in the old verbiage for gap scheme, even though you're double teaming, if we don't block him, he will make the tackle for a 3-yard loss. If we block him and we don't block the linebacker, we'll get a 3-yard gain probably, or at least 2. I said, so what's better, guys? So getting that into their heads that, hey, down guy's most important. And we'll spend the first June, we'll just combo block and never touch the linebacker. I won't let him go off the linebacker. Nope, block the down man, block the down man, block the down. You gotta block the down. So many times I see in film at every level, they run zone and somebody forgets the number one thing, block the down man. The down man makes them, they block the linebacker. Linebacker's back are getting blocked by 2 people, and down man made a tackle for a loss.
Yeah.
So it's in stages, I would say. And I start small. Don't give it to them all at once. I might give them a picture, show them some film of what a zone looks like. Then I'm going to say, guys, we're going to break it down all the way back to the first step. Don't worry about that stuff at the end. Let's get back to the first step. Let's get that down. Then go from there.
Yeah. No, I was listening to a clinic yesterday, and that the line coach essentially emphasized like first 2 steps were his main priority. That was like, it's like if you can get that 90% of the time, you'll be okay. It's all, and that's kind of what we've worked on this summer too. Like obviously with my new job, I'm trying to figure out, okay, who's what works. I mean, that's the problem when you go to a place for the first time is you just don't know what you're able. I mean, you can throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, but God knows what's actually going to stick. So to your point, that's 100% right in terms of the footwork. And what is your, I mean, obviously that kind of hit on some of the drill stuff, but is there anything more advanced drill wise that you do outside of steps and combos? Like what rabbit holes do you go down?
I'm gonna go down one of my biggest pet peeves, I guess. I'm gonna put this out there to all the coaches. I'm not picking on any coaches at all, but understand linemen have to be just as skilled with their footwork as a receiver or a running back or quarterback does. So why we do not work on lineman skills when it comes to bag drills, cone drills. I mean, I'm talking about the basic stuff. My son calls it the county fair. We get out there, you got a bunch of stations where you're moving around. The linemen need to do that just as important as your skill guys do, because they need to be good inside their 10-yard box. I'm not saying a lineman has to have a great 40. I don't know why they run 40s. I think it's stupid. They should run a 10 maybe a 20 at the most. But I always tell my kids, I need you to be the fastest person and the quickest person inside your 10-yard box. Okay? A lineman could be a slow lineman, but if his feet are fast, he could be a very good lineman. He could run a 5.2, 5.3, 5.5 40. But if he has fast feet, he could be a very good lineman. If you can't move, you can't play. And I just feel linemen get left out when it comes to just basic drills, running over the bag, through the bag, around the cones, shuffling your feet. Those basic drills that like my son calls the county fair drills. Do that with your linemen. Do it every day. Ain't got nothing to do with the zone or gap scheme or anything, but it gets their feet moving. So my best linemen I've ever coached were soccer players before they played football, because they had to move their feet and learn to move. I see it every time. These kids can't move. They're big. They're 6'6" or 320. Like, yeah, that kid I want. Then they're like, well, he can't move. So you got to train their feet. What I call foot fire. You get their foot fire going. Boom, 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 boom. So bird dog stuff. Quick, 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 quick. So I mean, Coach Grandstaff, bless his soul. Every day we come out, we did team bags. Whole team did bags. And I'm turning out. I got linemen that can go through the bags. Make this is good a receiver go through the bag. Maybe not near as fast, but it looks athletic. You know, their feet are fine, their hands are right. They're not tripping over the bag and falling down. You know, that is huge to me. And I just think that as a line coach and lineman, we have to get our linemen's feet better. If their feet are good, they can get most of their blocks. They can be a successful lineman at 5'3". If their feet got good feet, they can be successful. So it ain't even about the drills to get to it. You got stuff to do prior to those drills. And that's just getting your feet moving, getting good foot fire, and then we'll move on to the drills.
Okay, perfect. Now let's transition to defense for the second half of this. Like, obviously you guys had a pretty dang good defense as well because y'all put a bunch of athletes on the field. You can call it 3-3, you can call it 3-5. It's semantics really.
Yeah.
But you coached the overhangs. What was that rabbit hole in learning that? Because obviously the O-line's a little more natural for you. That was already your wheelhouse. What was kind of going down that rabbit hole and you and y'all staff putting together what that should look like and kind of how to coach the outside backers?
Well, you know, the crazy part is I think being an offensive line coach made me a great linebacker coach, outside linebacker, not great, good, I should say, outside linebacker coach. Because when Chad said we're going to 3-5, 3-3, whatever you want to call it, it is what it is. I said, okay, so I need some help with the outside backers. We got to figure this out. And we're going to call them Devil Bandit. All right. And they're kind of a DB linebacker. They got to be able to play man coverage, but also make a tackle. So they're not a true corner. I'm like, okay, so you got to look for that in between body, that 180, 190 kid who we didn't have a lot of sometimes in Zanesville, it seemed like. I always had to look for them. And I got kids smaller than that. One of my best ones, he was all state 2 years in a row. He weighed 165 pounds. But outside linebacker, to me, is the one spot you can put a kid who's really, 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 really smart. He understands it, but he's a step slow. As long as he ain't scared to hit nobody. But he can be a step slow because if they have it here in the mind, they can diagnose the play so fast they can know what's coming. They know exactly what's coming. They can be there. Even though they're a step slower, it makes them a step faster or where they should be because they know what's coming. And me being an offensive line guy, I taught the outside backers, their read isn't the backfield. That's one thing that people get look in the backfield. Nope. You're going to watch the offensive tackle because he can't lie to you. He's going to tell you what the play is going to happen. Okay. So we would spend time on doing nothing, but I would get one of my offensive linemen to come down there with me, and I'd tell them a play. I said, do your first step. That's all I want you to do is your first step. And then I would show the outside backer, this is your reaction to his first step. This is your reaction. If he pops up, you better get back. It's passed. We're dropping in the zone. You got your zone drop. We worked on the zone drop. You know, what you're reading there. You know, you read, we call it 2-1. Number 2 is the inside guy if you're in doubles. So you read 2-1. What did 2 do? Then you go out to 1, depending on what 2 would do. Because again, there's only so many routes you can run. All right. Even though people want to say I got 1,000 routes. Yeah. But there's only so much room on a football field. Okay. If 2 goes out, what does 1 have to normally do? He's probably going to come in. So if 2 goes out, I look at 1, take him. You know, if 2 goes down inside, I turn to 1 because if he's going inside, that ain't my man anymore. He's going down in there with the inside linebackers or a crossing route or something. They ain't got nothing to do with me. I need to go to 1. If 2 goes vertical, now I need to settle down and look at 1. What did 1 do? Did 1 come in and 1 went vertical? If they both go vertical, I just settle down and look for a swing pass and make sure the quarterback doesn't get out of the pocket. Yeah. So it's all stuff predicated on what happens. And it sounds like a lot, but really and truly, it all happens so fast that if you can diagnose, you can get in the right spot. And it really, I even broke it down even more. The more and more me and Chad looked into it, I got kids to look at the formation. What are they in? Well, what can they do from this? What can they attack? How can they attack you from this formation? And then you take the next step, and then I had a kid who would do this. And he was all everything for us. He would watch the film and be, well, coach, this is the formation. These are any plays they can run out of us. This is what they're going to do. Well, yeah, exactly. So it really turned into a thinking man's game more than an athletic. Let's put it this way. I've had every gamut. I had a guy who was really smart, wasn't that fast, was a serviceable and very good outside linebacker. Then I had the guy but he was kind of small. Then I had the guy who was bigger, very athletic, really couldn't diagnose the play. He did pretty well because he was so athletic and got out there. Then a couple of times I put it all together. I had a big kid, very smart. He was All-State 2 years, both of them, because they put it all together and could do it. And there's just certain entities, and it made it fun. It was a fun place. It was a fun place to coach because you could make a lot of tackles and make a lot of tackles for a loss and do a lot of easy interceptions for touchdowns just by reading the defense, what they had to tell you, and being able to diagnose it that quick and be in the right spot. And I had kids that could do that because I taught them how to diagnose. And like I said, reading the offensive lineman first. We all know if he pops up, it's got to be a pass, right? If he steps his inside foot, the play's probably going away. I would say you're going to step check. I'm going to step down in and check, make sure nothing's coming back to me, and I'll be a late pursuer to the backside because it's going away from me probably. The biggest thing is the number one, ding, 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 get on my horse. Here it comes at me. I got to make the stop. If his foot comes towards you or steps out at you, you better be coming downhill. That play is coming at you, and you got to stop it because you are the force player.
Yeah. So like with that, how did you drill all that? That's my question. Because like obviously you see the transition from O-line to outside backers there. You're doing it like, again, comes back to footwork, like footwork and eyes. So
the first thing I do is, because first thing I get to them is, listen, you're a run stopper. Your job is to stop the run. You'll help with pass, but stop the run unless you're in man coverage. So let's just take man coverage out of it. Let's take all that. First thing is run. We're going to stop the run. So you have to look at the first thing you do is look at the formation. I got a tight end. I got 2 receivers, 3 receivers, 1 receiver, no receiver. Is the back set my way? Is the back set the other way? I got to know that. But then the number one thing is I'm looking at the tackle in his first step. What did he do? If he fired straight out, the play's going up the middle. I better step check, make sure he's not popping outside, bouncing outside, and I'm going to help out. If he gets through the 2 inside linebackers, I'm going to be there to make tackle for a 3-yard gain. If he would step inside footsteps, I'm step checking, make sure nothing's coming back to me. The play's probably going away. I'm going to skip over the top and get a pursuit angle. If he steps out at me, his foot comes out towards me, I'm coming downhill. Something's coming off the edge, and I'm going to stop it for a 2-yard, 3-yard loss, because I am not going to let the receiver, if they're in 2-by-2, block me. I line up inside of him to where if I'm inside of him, as soon as I dart down inside, my back's turned, he can't block me. He's going to have to hit me in the back and get a penalty. So that's the first thing, is your alignment, I guess. Let me back up to that. We always lined up inside the number 2 receiver. If there was no number 2 receiver and there's just a number 1 way out there, we split the difference between the tackle or tight end and receiver, split the difference. So as a coach always said, alignment, assignment. That's first. Alignment and assignment. I gotta know my alignment, then I can know, then I can figure out my assignment.
Okay.
Next drill, once I did the drill with the tackles, and did that was your run. That's all you needed to do. And understanding formation. The next thing I would do is work on the drop. If you have a field, it made it nice. I would line them up on the hash, on a hash mark, any hash mark. And I would do the one, because usually it didn't matter. I would line up on a hash mark and they would drop diagonally to the numbers. That was your drop. And we ran, and I worked on, they didn't drop like a DB drops where you're down and you backpedal and all that stuff. Even though that's another crazy stuff, what I used to do is we would go with the DBs the first 10 minutes and do footwork drill, like your W drill, your cone drill, all that stuff, work on footwork. But then I would leave that and say, we can't do anything else, guys, because the other stuff they do, how they drop stuff, that's not what we do. We drop at a 45-degree angle, and we use the look back, cross over your feet kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're totally, your back, because you want to look and be looking at your receivers as you're dropping to your spot. You're looking at what's going on with your receivers as in 2 to 1. I'm reading 2 to 1. If 2 goes in, my head changes to 1. And again, like I said, 2 is the inside receiver. Now, if all I have is 1, then I'm dropping straight to the dropping back, looking at number 1. Another thing that we never got into, because high school, we never made a high school team really used it. But today's offense in the pros, I could see me 2 to 1 would be number 2, be a tight end. If he's on the line, seeing what he's doing. A lot of teams, their tight end is their main guy. Travis Kelce, I mean, you might want to know where that guy's at. I don't know, but you might want to know. So that would be a challenge for me. It'd be a cool challenge to have a team that use a tight end a lot, to be having my guys look at the tight end, because never really had to. Because most people play spread, and there's really no tight end up there. So that would be a wrinkle.
Especially in the league you guys were in, that's not a very tight end anymore. 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
A lot more. Nowadays, I don't even know if anybody in that league is a true.
Even Lincoln Valley runs the spread, which they were true,
Yeah. Although I played Lincoln Valley every year. They beat the living crap out of me for 4 straight years in high school. Trust me, I am well aware of.
So that was interesting. So, those are the drills. You might start out with the DBs, the corners, and the safeties, but you got to break off, and you got to do your drop drill. You got to do your read drill. Then it's basically, you put guys out there, run some combo routes at them, just to let them see what they can do and how you stop them. And the other big thing, and this drives me crazy, and my son even uses it. He watches TV and says, "Daddy, they're guarding grass." Why do we guard grass out there for? It's like, the younger generation don't know this, but back in my day when I was growing up, I like cars, and cool cars had curb feelers on them. And curb feeler was a little thing that stuck out the side of the car that would feel the curb so you wouldn't scratch your tires up, right? Curb feeler. Yep. So I tell my kids, put your curb feeler out, and when you touch somebody, that's your guy now, goes the man. And like, curb feeler, what's a curb feeler, coach? Curb feeler. So I had to explain to them what a curb feeler is. Because you drop out there and you just guard grass, the guy catches the ball right next to you. Yeah, because you wouldn't guard it. When coach, you said drop right there. Yeah, but once you drop there, guard the guy that's in that area.
Yes.
So yeah, that was always a struggle. Don't guard grass, I'd say. Don't stand out there and guard grass.
Funny.
So those are just things that I've used. The biggest thing I've learned is you got to teach your kids your terminology. That way you can yell out there to them and they know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the last question I want to ask you, and I mean, especially I asked essentially all of our regional reps this, is you're obviously very involved in our association. Grand staff was as well, obviously now being our former president. Kind of, I mean, because I am big on trying to push young coaches to be involved in their association, whether it be the local one, like we have Miami Valley out here, and your state one, just stay involved. Kind of why did you get involved in ohsfca? What was kind of your reasoning behind being so involved as you are today?
Probably the passion I have for coaching and wanting to learn. You can never, I've been going to the clinic not as long as Chad has, but I think I'm going a year like 20 maybe. And I always pick up something I can use down the road, and football is evolving. Granted, it's blocking and tackling. Whoever does that best wins. Don't get me wrong. But you can always pick up something that can help your kid, help your kids, take back to them, teach another young coach. Coaches need to be involved because it's just like your teaching profession. You do professional development for teaching. You want to get better at your teaching job. So why not get better at your coaching job by being around other coaches, listening what they have to say, talking to them, asking questions. We're so busy as coaches. We don't get, during the season, we don't get to ask anybody questions about our own staff. We can't go ask the head coach over at so-and-so school about how he did this or why he does that or whatever. We don't have time. So you want to go to these meetings and get around these coaches, and especially having a local chapter is great. And that is one that I wish we could get started back up in Muskingum County again, because you can learn a lot from other coaches because you don't get a chance to go watch them practice. That's the one thing, being away from varsity football for a year, I got to go watch other varsity practices. And there's so many things I wrote down and took back, like, man, I'm going to try this out if I ever go back to the work. But you can't do that when you're coaching it. So to get out to these meetings, come to the clinic, get involved in your local one, start a local one if you need to, whatever. So you can just sit down and, in the off season and talk football and ask those questions that, I wish I knew how to do this, or what do you think about this? Or I'm going to try to do this. But how did you guys put it in? Or what did you guys do with this? That's how you learn. I mean, I take credit for nothing that I teach. I've stole everything. I admit it. I give people credit who I stole it from. All right. But that's how you have to do it. And you just get more knowledge to come up with more answers. Like me and Chad said back in 2012, we ain't never going to get stuck. We ain't got an answer. So I need to go out there and follow up and make sure I got an answer to when we have an issue. Yep, that's what we're going to do right here. Yep, that's what we're going to do right here. Yep, I got an answer for that. Yep, I talked to Witchcott this year about how they instituted that. We can do that, Chad, or we can do that, Coach. So you want to get involved from that standpoint right there, because you're good because you're a coach. You got to be good at it, but you want to be better at it, and you want to teach your kids. My biggest thing I used to tell my linemen when they go off to college and play, if they did, when they come back, what'd you learn? What drills are you doing? Am I putting you in the best position for that? Am I doing that drill? Am I teaching that? How I teach it? Does that make sense? You always want to self-reflect and make sure you're doing the best you can do for your kids and your staff.
Yeah.
And go out and learn. And it's just hard for us to go learn because we're coaching year-round, basically, football. So when you have an opportunity, you need to take it and go watch somebody else. I mean, I go watch the all-star practice just because it's 5 different head coaches out there coaching how they doing things, how they doing stuff. I just sit back and watch. I'm not trying to impede anybody's stuff. I just want to learn and look. That's the biggest thing I have fun doing. I love going and watching high school, college, doesn't matter, football practice, and overall, how they doing the quarterbacks, how they doing receivers. Is there a special teams drill that we could do that we could pick up and do? Because we all know in high school, special teams are very important, but everybody knows that's the least amount of time you spend on special teams. So what can I do to where I can spend less time on it, or not the same amount of time to get more bang for my buck? So it's just, you want to be able to look around and create those relationships. So I can call you up and say, hey, you're doing this. How'd you do that? I want to do that. And you call me up, Coach Jackson, we're trying to do this. What did you do? I'm not, if anybody tells you they don't want to get with it, they're crazy, because they stole it from somebody. There's nothing out there that's been reinvented. Somebody did it years ago somewhere else, and you stole it and brought it to today. A lot of stuff that we're doing today, I mean, it's crazy. Long story short, Coach Parks ran the single wing. What is everybody trying to do? What does everybody do now, basically? They have a package for that, where they run the spread, which is basically a single wing. You got your best athlete playing quarterback now. That's what you do. And that single wing's 50, 75, 100 years old, but that's what we're doing. So just get involved, coaches, I say, young coaches, find out who your rep is, ask them questions, this way we can get our game that we love the way we want it.
Yeah, perfect, Coach. Well, coaches, I don't even, do you even have a Twitter, Coach?
I do. That's I am CAJ, I think. CAJ's 7. Hold on here. Yeah.
That way, if someone wants to talk to you, I have a.
I am at 7CAJ. That's what I am. At 7CAJ is my Twitter handle. Reach out to me. You got questions. I'm Zanesville High School. You can find that. Anything I can ever do for a coach, please reach out to me. More than happy to help in any way I can. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to find you somebody that does.
Yep. So give Coach a follow. If you have any questions for me, anything really in depth on zone, or like I said, he also does a really good job with outside backers. So either one. And like I said, they had some legit teams at Zanesville when they were there, and they did a really good job there. Like, share, subscribe. Like I said, that helps people find this video and the other podcasts and all the other crap I have on the channel at this point. And then check our sponsor, Coachpad. Otherwise, that's another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.